Hello and welcome to This Is. Things are looking a little different in here, so different that we don't even have Austin anymore. What we're going to talk about today is the Pixel 6a and why. Just why?
Why?
That's my general thought on the Pixel 6a. So we have this over from Google. I played with this for a little bit now. It's a good phone, don't get me wrong. But I feel like there's significantly better options out there that people should consider before they even consider this one. I don't know. Let me give you the rundown of the Pixel 6a. This guy here is $449, so not expensive, but definitely not cheap. I mean, there's definitely way cheaper phones. It's got 6 gigs of RAM. It's got Google Tensor processor, which for those of you who do not know is like the Exynos, but it's not like the Snapdragon equivalent of the Exynos. It's a slightly lower one, kind of like in the Samsung A series. The big glaring thing that this has is a 5 or 6 year old camera.
I mean, it's the same one that the Pixel has had since like the Pixel 2. Google's always emphasized the processing and the software and, the AI kind of making the picture all better. But the thing is, I think at a point, especially now that we have 48 megapixel cameras, 50 megapixel cameras, especially from the bigger brother, the Pixel 6, you really notice the extra resolution, even if it's been down to like a 12 megapixel picture, you do get increased sharpness. And that's the thing that you lose with this, even though I think this is still some of the best portrait mode that you can get out of any phone.
Yeah, let's be very clear. It is still a really good camera. So do not let that deter you. You are getting the newest software with this, which is the benefit of getting that older, the newer version of this. It's little things. One, I do like that this is smaller than the Pixel 6. So if we got this over here, you see it is noticeably smaller, but I wish it was even smaller. When talking with Austin, he thought it was too chunky. I actually think it's the perfect level of chunk. I love that it's all squared off. I love the design of it. Everything's great. This sage color, absolutely gorgeous.
I don't notice a difference, or at least much of a difference, between the glass and the plastic. Of course, we don't get wireless charging with the 6A because it doesn't have the glass back. The main thing that I'm missing, and I'm sure that, you felt this more in, the more time that you spent with it. I'm gonna take a look at this on the Denki channel video, which is coming up pretty soon.
Go subscribe to Denki channel here.
I wish this thing had a higher refresh rate.
And that's where we kind of get into these weird little trade-offs. I know I'm personally someone who 60 hertz is fine for me, but it does feel weird that in 2022 it doesn't have at least 90 hertz.
Okay, so here's the thing. So for the Pixel 6a video, one of the comparisons that I'm going to draw is with the Samsung A53 5G. That phone, actually kind of crazy for the price. It's around $350. I don't know if that's MSRP, but that's what I see it at constantly in stores. The Pixel 6a, we should note, is $450. It'll probably be on sale at some point, as these phones are. Pixel 6, for example, was something, like $600?
During Prime Day, it was as low as $500, which is insane.
Which this isn't out yet, but it almost cannibalizes the younger brother.
And now that, by the time this video goes live, Prime Day's over, blah, blah, blah. It's still only $570. So for $100, you are getting way more phone. I think that trade-off is worth it when you compare the 6 to the 6A. Samsung's budget line now have gotten so good that, really the only thing the Pixel has going for it is the longevity of it.
Yeah.
So you're these are, I believe, guaranteed 3 years of major.
It's 3 years of major updates and I think 5 years of security. Now the interesting thing, and we've talked about this a lot, is just how good mid-range and even some entry-level phones are. To the point where even though the 6A is a mid-range option, it's still relatively expensive for what it is. And we've talked about the iPhone SE, also relatively expensive for what it is. Granted, on the iPhone side, you only have so many options. But I think on the Android side, the competition is just so good to the point where the 6A, unless this thing gets a price drop or is on promotion or whatever.
I feel like it will.
It will. But in a vacuum for now, it's still too expensive.
We're talking about this when it first comes out, and I guarantee within the first couple months, this is going to be sub $400.
I want this to be $350. If you can get this for the same price as the A53, I'll get this instead.
And a lot of people like that because they get the pure Google experience. But I want to talk about just the Pixel line in general for a second, because I feel like every year we get the Pixel, we don't know what to talk about it with because some years it's super cheap and it's the best budget phone you can get, and they lose some of the specs, but that's okay because it's so cheap. And then the next year it's this is way too expensive and we still don't have I feel like every year it's a different narrative. They need to find a way to define their role in this like Android space, because Android is Google. How are you losing this battle?
No, but that's the thing, though, right? That's the thing that underscores Android is, yes, they're always on the up and up.
Yeah.
Yes, things always are new and fresh and exciting, and they're always changing the formula. But at the cost of changing the formula is the Pixel is kind of taking a back seat to that inconsistency. It kind of just has to deal with what Google's doing, and it's kind of hard to establish that identity. They do it with little things like the camera, with the design schemes. You know, they usually keep those for a couple of years. Their third parties are doing a better job, I think.
So I will say, I think that the Pixel line is the best looking Android phone on the market.
I think this does look better than the A series for sure.
Oh, definitely better than the A series. But I think it looks better than the S series. I think it looks. Z Flip.
Austin, give me your phone. This is still, I think, one of my favorite looking phones.
I will specifically say the bespoke version of this with like the baby blue.
Oh, I love the yellow.
Yeah,
the yellow is nice.
Where I had this revelation was with the Pixel 5. I don't care about specs anymore. You can yell all you want about how this has only 6 gigs of RAM versus whatever. None of that matters to me anymore. As I've gotten older, I do not care about the specs. I care about the experience. I care about how it feels in my hand.
Yeah.
I care about the size, everything like that.
I mean, like, the thing about that, right, is, and this is something that we always have to think about when we evaluate phones, is I think we're in a very privileged position.
Oh, absolutely.
Where we get to try out all the Pixels. I have my daily driver iPhone. It definitely skews what we appreciate in phones. And at the end of the day, what I will always prefer is the most consistent experience, especially for work. But I think there's also something to be said about how we evaluate this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that at the end of the day, like, we try to find things that stand out, but that doesn't necessarily mean it'll make us like the phone more.
You're not gonna notice like the 0.01 gigahertz difference in a clock speed of a cell phone. Like when we talked about the Pixel 5 a couple years ago, me and Austin said like that was like the perfect experience. It was like the perfect size. It was tiny. It was a little tiny guy. That was like the perfect experience for us because like, yeah, like it wasn't the best specs compared to other flagships, but it was snappy. It did everything we needed to. It was perfect to feel in the hand. This is where it's kind of, I feel like I'm saying the opposite now for the 6A, which again, to be fair, is supposed to be a lower spec type of phone.
Yeah.
The battery's smaller, but like, okay, it's physically smaller. It's a smaller screen. It's only 60 hertz screen. I wouldn't be surprised if you actually got better battery life out of the 6A.
In a vacuum, this should
Yeah.
give you the better battery life for sure.
But like, it does have like a in-screen fingerprint sensor, which is not great. So again, when you're talking about like, what's the experience? What's the overall, like, what am I feeling with this? This just doesn't hold up to other Android phones, which are cheaper.
So we unboxed this on Mystery Tech, and one of the things I noticed when I was shooting photos with it, and it's something that I experience on Android a lot, but it's always egregiously bad on the Pixel, is the processing. When you're taking a photo, right, the phone has to do a bunch of stuff in the background before you can actually preview it. What that means is that, you know, if you take a photo and you want to preview it or something like that, you have to wait like 3 or 4 seconds for it to finish. And that can mean missing a shot if you just want to make sure that you're catching something on the fly. And that has been a problem for me since the Pixel 2. I'll just take a photo of you right now. Look at this. Ready, set. It takes a second before you can actually do stuff to it. In rapid motion, it's like slow. And sometimes it's almost too aggressive. Like, there are some shots that I took of us, and again, on the Mystery Tech, where it looks over HDR. Like, it has like that, the halo effect around him. His skin doesn't look natural. The main thing with the camera is that I still think that the computational is one of the best, but I think there are times in the right conditions, or I guess wrong conditions, where it doesn't look the best compared to everything else. Everything else has just gotten so good.
Yeah.
One of the issues that I have with the Pixel, and this is more of a long-term thing that we obviously cannot test with this phone, is how bad they are long-term. You know, you use the phone for 6 months and, you know, you're fully set up in it, and then all of a sudden the phone will just slow down, it'll bog down. And that's kind of my big worry with the Pixel. And it's also weird that it's Google software.
I'm just gonna come back to this of just like, I don't know who I could recommend this to. The plastic bat feels really nice. I can't tell that it's not glass. However, the no wireless charging is a no-go for me. I don't remember the last time I plugged in a phone. The physical real estate of this is so similar to the 6. If you want like a smaller phone, there's different options. If you want a cheaper phone, there's different options, and they're better spec or at least damn close spec-wise.
That's the thing is, I think that Google in their pitch meetings or whatever probably were like, who do we compare this to? And I think probably at the top of their list, I think is probably the iPhone SE, iPhone SE 3. Give or take difference of $20. But I still think that there are better mid-range Android phones that are cheaper,
and
like the A53.
And this is my bold claim. This is never really going to sell for $450.
But do you think this will genuinely sell better than the Pixel 6 when the Pixel 6 goes down so low too?
Right. I do think that like immediately this is going to go on sale, or like it'll have like some crazy incentive deal, like $400 plus Pixel Buds and like a $50 credit, like some sort of incentive to make this like a really enticing deal. It's one of those things. I don't think this is just ever going to be a $450 phone. When you're shopping around for phones and you see $100 off this phone, that just looks so nice and it's so enticing. This is the next strategy after, you know, doing $499 instead of $500. But even at $350, I have a hard time recommending this over like the Samsung.
Yeah, the Samsung's just too good, and they're gonna be people like hollering in the comments about that. But 120 hertz display, I think the camera is still like at least on paper better as well.
I feel like you're gonna get better.
Screen.
The better software on the Pixel for camera, but the actual camera itself is better on the Samsung.
A53, yeah. It's good design. We know Google can make great material design.
If only they could follow it up with great software and great specs at a great price. I've said it about Apple. I'm going to say it about Google. These companies print money. They could sell these at a loss if they wanted to.
They won't.
They won't, but they could. Here's what I'm going to say. Google, make this $300, sell all of them, and then collect all of our data and make all your money back on our ad revenue. Let us know in the comments what you think. Is the Pixel 6a worth it? Is it not worth it? Are you going to get a Pixel 6, which I think you should? Are you going to get something completely different? Are you going to tell me about how your Huawei is way better than this?
I'm going to get a Nokia 3310.
Nokia 3310. Just don't drop it on the floor because you will need a new floor. Like, subscribe, follow us everywhere. Subscribe to Danky Time. We'll get the link in the description. Check out his video on that, and we'll catch you in the next one.